You're lying in bed at 2 a.m., staring at your phone. The last message you sent? Still sitting there. Delivered. Read. But no reply. You start replaying every word you said, every emoji you used, wondering what went wrong. Was it something you did? Something you said? Or worse, are you just not worth the effort of a simple text back? If this has ever happened to you, you're not alone. Ghosting isn't just rude, it's one of the most psychologically damaging things someone can do in modern relationships. And today we're going to uncover the brutal truth behind why people ghost, what it says about them, and most importantly, how you can protect your peace and move forward without losing yourself in the process. But before we dive deep into the psychology of ghosting, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Right now. It helps us bring more content like this to people who need it. And if you haven't subscribed to Sense and Thought yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button because we're here to help you understand human behavior in ways that actually matter. Now let's get into it. Ghosting happens when someone you've been talking to, dating, or even in a relationship with suddenly vanishes without any explanation. No goodbye, no closure, just silence. And here's the thing, it's not always about you. In fact, most of the time, it has everything to do with the person doing the ghosting and very little to do with anything you did or didn't do. But understanding why people ghost can help you make sense of the confusion and stop you from spiraling into self-blame. The first reason people ghost is something psychologists call avoidant attachment. Now, if you're not familiar with attachment theory, let me break it down quickly. When we're young, the way our caregivers respond to us shapes how we form relationships as adults. People with avoidant attachment grew up in environments where emotional needs were often dismissed or ignored. So as adults, they tend to avoid deep emotional connections because vulnerability feels threatening to them. When things start to get real in a relationship, when emotions deepen or expectations grow, avoidant types panic. They don't know how to handle it. So instead of communicating their discomfort, they do what feels safest to them. They disappear. They ghost you not because you did something wrong, but because their nervous system is telling them to run. It's a defense mechanism, and you just happen to be the person they were running from. The second reason is fear of confrontation. Let's be honest, most people hate conflict. We live in a world where we can curate our lives online, block people with a single tap, and avoid awkward conversations altogether. Ghosting becomes the path of least resistance. Think about it. If someone isn't feeling the connection anymore, they have two choices. They can have an uncomfortable conversation where they explain how they feel, risk hurting your feelings and deal with your reaction. Or they can just stop responding and let the silence do the talking. For a lot of people, especially those who struggle with people-pleasing or confrontation anxiety, ghosting feels easier. They don't want to be the bad guy. They don't want to see your disappointment. So they choose the coward's way out, not realizing that ghosting actually causes more pain than honesty ever could. The third psychological reason is what I call the paradox of choice. We live in an age where dating apps give us access to hundreds, sometimes thousands of potential matches. At any given moment, someone might be talking to 5, 10, or even 20 different people. And when you have that many options, it becomes easier to treat people as disposable. If a conversation isn't immediately exciting, if someone seems slightly less interesting than the next match, people just move on. There's always someone else waiting in the queue. This paradox of choice creates a mentality where commitment feels unnecessary. Why put effort into one person when there are so many others to explore? Ghosting becomes not just common, but normalized. And the sad part is, the person being ghosted often never stood a chance, because the ghoster was never fully invested to begin with. The fourth reason people ghost is emotional immaturity. And I'm not saying this to be harsh, but it's the truth. Emotional maturity means being able to communicate your feelings, set boundaries, and handle difficult conversations with respect. A lot of people simply don't have that skill set. They're not self-aware enough to recognize their own patterns, and they're not emotionally equipped to handle the discomfort that comes with ending things properly. So they ghost, they avoid, they disappear. It's not because you're not worthy of an explanation. It's because they lack the emotional tools to give you one. They're stuck in a childlike state of avoidance where they'd rather pretend something doesn't exist than deal with it head on. And the fifth reason is projection and self-protection. Sometimes people ghost because they're going through something internally that has nothing to do with you. Maybe they're battling depression, dealing with personal trauma, or feeling overwhelmed by their own life. In those moments, they might pull away from everyone, not just you. But here's where it gets tricky. They don't tell you that. They don't say, "Hey, I'm going through a rough time and I need space." They just vanish. And you're left wondering what you did wrong, when in reality, they're projecting their internal chaos onto the relationship. They're protecting themselves by shutting down, and unfortunately, you become collateral damage in their self-preservation. Now, here's the part that really matters. When you get ghosted, your brain doesn't just move on, it spirals. You start questioning everything. You overanalyze every conversation, every interaction, looking for clues. You might even start believing that you're not good enough, not interesting enough, not worthy of basic respect. And that's the real damage of ghosting. It messes with your self-worth. But here's what you need to understand. Ghosting says nothing about your value and everything about the other person's inability to handle their own emotions. When someone ghosts you, they're showing you exactly who they are. They're showing you that they lack the courage, maturity, and respect to treat you like a human being. And honestly, do you really want someone like that in your life? I know it's easier said than done, but the best thing you can do when you're ghosted is to let it go. Don't chase. Don't send multiple follow-up texts. Don't beg for closure, because closure isn't something they can give you. Closure is something you give yourself. You close the chapter by deciding that you deserve better. You close it by realizing that someone who can't communicate isn't someone you want to build anything with. You close it by refusing to let their silence define your worth. And here's something else to consider. Sometimes the person who ghosted you will come back. Weeks, months, maybe even years later, they'll slide back into your messages like nothing happened. They'll act casual, maybe even apologetic, testing to see if you'll let them back in. And this is where you have to be strong. Because if someone ghosted you once, they'll likely do it again. Patterns repeat, especially when there are no consequences. So if they come back, don't just accept them with open arms. Ask yourself, has this person grown? Have they acknowledged what they did? Are they taking accountability, or are they just lonely and looking for attention? Protect your peace. Protect your energy. If you're watching this right now and you've been ghosted, I want you to do something for me. I want you to drop a comment below and share your experience. Not because I want you to relive the pain, but because sometimes it helps to know you're not alone. And who knows, your story might help someone else who's going through the same thing. Also, if you found this video helpful, share it with a friend who needs to hear this. Let's create a community on sense and thought where we support each other, where we lift each other up, and where we refuse to let toxic behavior define how we see ourselves. Now let's talk about how to move forward after being ghosted. First, give yourself permission to feel hurt. Don't pretend it doesn't bother you. Don't act like you're above it. It's okay to feel disappointed, confused, or even angry. Those emotions are valid, but don't stay there. Feel it, process it, and then let it go. Second, remind yourself of your worth. Write down the qualities that make you valuable. Think about the people in your life who appreciate you, who show up for you, who treat you with respect. One person's inability to see your value doesn't erase it. Third, resist the urge to stalk their social media. I know it's tempting, but scrolling through their posts, checking if they're active, looking for signs of life, it only keeps you stuck. Unfollow, mute, or block if you need to. Out of sight, out of mind. Fourth, focus on yourself. Use this time to invest in your own growth, your own happiness, your own goals. The best revenge isn't getting back at them. It's becoming so fulfilled in your own life that their absence becomes irrelevant. And finally, understand that ghosting is a reflection of a bigger cultural problem. We've normalized treating people like they're disposable. We've normalized avoiding discomfort at all costs. We've normalized prioritizing convenience over compassion. But just because it's common doesn't mean it's okay. And just because it happened to you doesn't mean you have to accept it as normal. You have the power to set a different standard for how you allow people to treat you. So, the next time someone ghosts you, remember this. Their silence is not a statement about your worth. It's a statement about their character. It's a revelation of their limitations, their fears, their inability to show up as a decent human being. And honestly, that's not someone you want in your life anyway. You deserve people who communicate. You deserve people who respect you enough to be honest, even when it's uncomfortable. You deserve people who see your value and choose to stay, not people who disappear the moment things get real. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought. Ghosting hurts, but it also teaches. It teaches you to value yourself more. It teaches you to recognize red flags earlier. It teaches you that you don't need closure from someone else to move on. You are enough, with or without their validation. So hold your head high, protect your peace, and keep moving forward. The right people will find you, and when they do, they'll never make you question your worth. If this video resonated with you, make sure you hit that like button, drop a comment, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Sense and Thought if you haven't already, because we're here to break down human behavior in ways that actually empower you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.